4 seconds that cost Ghana a legend. The Laye Kingston story. The hotel room in Edinburgh felt like a prison. For 7 whole days, Laye Kingston couldn't make himself leave. Outside, Scottish spring was blooming with flowers and sunshine, but inside, the curtains stayed closed tight. His phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Reporters, friends, family, all wanting to know how it felt to miss Ghana's first ever World Cup because of one moment of madness in Egypt. All the things I did for the team, he said later, his voice heavy with regret, and I couldn't make it to the World Cup. It hurts me so much. This is the story of a player who had everything. Feet that moved like magic, a heart full of fight and dreams bigger than all of Africa. But sometimes in soccer, having everything isn't enough. Sometimes the beautiful game breaks your heart in ways you never see coming. This is the story of Laye Kingston, the ghost that haunts Ghana's World Cup dreams. In the dusty streets of Accra in the late 1990s, teenage Laye Kingston wasn't just playing soccer, he was making magic with his feet. At Great Olympics, coaches would stop talking just to watch this skinny kid with extraordinary vision make passes that seemed impossible. In Ghana, you don't just play football, you carry your family name, your neighborhood pride, your entire community's dreams on your back. Football isn't a game here. It is the ticket out. And Kingston, he wasn't just playing for Olympics. He was playing for every kid who had ever kicked the ball in the streets of Jamestown. Picture this, a 17-year-old Laye Kingston, sweat shining under the hot Ghanaian sun, getting the ball with his back to the goal. In one smooth move, without even looking, he would slip a pass between 3 defenders to find a teammate 30 yards away. The crowd will gasp. His teammates will shake their heads, amazed. He sees things others don't. His coach at Olympics would tell anyone who would listen, it's like he's playing a completely different game. By 2001, when Kingston was 21 years old, he moved to the biggest stage in Ghana, Heartbreak, the country's most successful club. This wasn't just a transfer, this was like being crowned a prince. Hearts were in the middle of something special, carrying the legacy of Ghana's greatest football dynasty. Laye Kingston arrived at Heartbreak during the twilight of their legendary era. While he did not witness their historic 6 consecutive league titles from 1997 to 2002, he became part of the club that had redefined Ghanaian football excellence. The 64 Battalion, that was Hearts' nickname from their glorious 1960s era, still echoed through the stadium whenever Kingston took the field. At Accra Heartbreak, Kingston refined his craft among legends. His vision sharpened, his passing became more precise, and his understanding of the game deepened. But Kingston was not content with just succeeding in Ghana. There was something else driving him, something deeper. Every night, he would fall asleep to the same vision. Himself in the Ghana jersey, World Cup Stadium, lights blazing, 70,000 voices singing the national anthem. Why couldn't Ghana be there? He wondered, why couldn't he be the one to take them to the World Cup? I used to watch the World Cup on TV, Kingston once reflected. His voice filled with wonder, and I would imagine myself there, playing for Ghana, showing the world what we could do. In 2004, Laye Kingston took a leap that would define his career. Russian soccer in the mid-2000s was brutal, unforgiving, and spectacular. When Krylia Sovetov Samara offered Kingston a chance to test himself in one of Europe's most demanding leagues, he did not hesitate. Adapting to Russia was torture. Russian winters were so cold that they would freeze your breath before it even left your mouth. Defenders treated soccer like warfare. Training felt more like military conditioning, but Kingston thrived on the challenge. In his debut season, something magical happened. Krylia Sovetov, with Kingston orchestrating their midfield, achieved their best ever league finish, 3rd place in the Russian Premier League. While he did not lift the Champions League trophies like Sameko or shine in the Bundesliga like Anthony Yeboah, Kingston carved out something equally rare, a respected name in the brutal landscape of Russian football. But success in Russia came with a price. The physical demands, the constant pressure to prove himself as an African player in a predominantly European league, it all took its toll. And then there was Kingston's fire. The same burning intensity that made him exceptional also made him vulnerable. Growing up in Jamestown, backing down wasn't an option. On the streets, respect was earned through toughness. That mentality had carried him from the dusty pitches of Accra to the frozen stadiums of Russia. But what serves you in the streets can destroy you on the biggest stages. Kingston's fiery temperament, forged in childhood battles and hardened by years of proving doubters wrong, began to work against him. After Russia, Kingston needed a different challenge. In 2005, he moved to Israel, joining Maccabi Netanya. The Mediterranean climate was kinder than Russian winters, but the tactical demands were just as intense. For 2 seasons, Kingston adapted his game once again, learning to play in yet another style, another culture, another language. Israel taught him patience and precision. The technical demands of Israeli football refined his already exceptional passing ability, but injuries began to creep in. Cruel reminders that even the most gifted bodies have limits. By 2007, Kingston was ready for what felt like his final European adventure. Heart of Midlothian in Edinburgh offered exactly what he needed: a chance to play in front of passionate fans who appreciated both beautiful soccer and harnessed effort. His debut was poetry in motion, a perfectly weighted pass, a delicate touch, a goal that announced he had arrived in Scottish football. For 3 years, Tynecastle Park became Kingston's canvas. He painted masterpieces with his left foot, carved through defenses with passes that seemed to defy physics, and won over heart supporters who recognized true artistry when they saw it. But even in Scotland, Kingston couldn't escape the curse that shadowed his career. Injury. His hamstring muscles kept betraying him, stealing minutes, games, and entire months from his prime years. My body couldn't take it anymore because of how hard I pushed myself. Kingston would later admit, the regret audible in his voice. When the Ghana Football Association first called Kingston to the national team in 2002, it was not just an honor, it felt like destiny. Ghana had never qualified for a World Cup. They were African football's sleeping giants, blessed with incredible talent but cursed by near misses and heartbreak. Kingston became the engine of Ghana's midfield. His vision, his ability to switch play with a casual flick of his boot, his knack for finding space where none existed. These qualities made him indispensable. When Ghana finally, miraculously, qualified for the 2006 World Cup in Germany, Kingston had played a crucial role in their historic campaign. "We are going to the World Cup," he screamed into the Accra night, tears streaming down his face as thousands of Ghanaians celebrated in the streets. For the first time ever, the Black Stars would grace football's grandest stage. But football, cruel and beautiful football, had other plans. 4 minutes in Egypt, January 20th, 2006. The Africa Cup of Nations in Egypt, Ghana vs Senegal in the group stage. Kingston was having a solid game, controlling tempo, creating opportunities. Then, in the 85th minute, everything changed. The ball had gone out of play, a routine moment, but tensions were high and emotions were raw. Senegal's Habib Beye and Kingston came together in what should have been a minor altercation. Words were exchanged, a push, a reaction. In 4 seconds, that felt like an eternity. The referee's whistle pierced through the Cairo night. Red card. Kingston's world shattered. 70,000 voices rose. Everything stopped. The CAF disciplinary committee showed no mercy. A 4-match suspension. 4 matches that would rule Kingston out to the remainder of the Africa Cup of Nations. And devastatingly, all 3 of Ghana's historic World Cup group stage games. Coach Ratomir Dukovic faced an impossible choice, but made the practical decisions. You can't take a player who will miss the entire group stage to the World Cup. Kingston was out. Ghana's first World Cup would happen without one of their greatest architects of the qualification. The 7 days of darkness. But back in that Edinburgh hotel room, Kingston lived through every footballer's worst nightmare. His phone rang constantly, reporters seeking reactions, fans expressing sympathy, family members trying to console someone who couldn't be consoled. But the worst part wasn't the cause, it was the silence between them. The moment when Kingston was alone with his thoughts, replaying those 4 seconds over and over. He had been fighting his whole life, fighting for respect on the streets, fighting for recognition at the Olympics, fighting for acceptance in Russia, fighting to prove Africa belonged on the world stage. But this time, his fight had cost him everything. What if I had just walked away? What if I had just kept my hands to myself? The questions tortured him more than any punishment ever could. I stayed inside for a week, Kingston later revealed. I was so hurt. I had done so much to help Ghana reach the World Cup, and then I couldn't be part of it. It broke my heart. Meanwhile, in Germany, his teammates were making history. Ghana became the only African nation to reach the round of 16, playing with the flair and determination that Kingston had helped cultivate. Every goal they scored, every moment of brilliance was a bittersweet reminder of what might have been. In goal, his brother Richard Kingston stood tall, becoming a hero between the posts while Lai watched thousands of miles away. They didn't speech much that week. Richard didn't want to seem insensitive. Lai didn't want pity, but the weight of parallel destinies, one brother living their dream, one brother living the nightmare, hung heavy over both. 4 years later, destiny seemed to be offering Kingston a second chance. The 2010 World Cup in South Africa, the first World Cup ever held on African soil. Ghana had qualified with Kingston contributing 2 crucial goals against Sudan and Benin during the campaign. This was it, his redemption story, his shot at closure. I had decided that 2010 would be my last tournament for the national team, Kingston said. I wanted to give everything I had left. At 29, he was no longer the explosive young talent who had burst onto the scene, but he was wiser, more experienced, still capable of moments that could change games. This World Cup felt different, more meaningful, more significant. An entire continent watching, and Kingston desperately wanted to be part of the narrative. But football's cruelest joke was still waiting to be played. When coach Milvan Rajvac announced his final 23-man squad for South Africa, Kingston's name was absent. No suspension this time, no dramatic incident, just a coaching decision based on fitness concerns and tactical preferences. Was it his age, the injuries that had accumulated over the years? Was it Rajvac's preference for a different type of player? The reasons remain unclear, shrouded in the kind of ambiguity that makes rejection even more painful. That one really destroyed me, Kingston admitted years later. It hurt more than 2006 because at least then I knew why I wasn't there. That phone call never came, and neither did another cap. Lai Kingston's international career ended not with a farewell match or a final bow, but with silence. Ghana would go on to reach the quarterfinals, coming heartbreakingly close to becoming the first African team to make the World Cup semi-finals. Luis Suarez's handball, Asamoah Gyan's missed penalty. These moments became part of World Cup folklore. But for Kingston, watching from home again, it was another chapter in an unfinished story. What makes a legend? Here's the question that haunts Ghanaian football. What if Lai Kingston had played in the World Cup? What if those 4 minutes of madness in Egypt had never happened? What if the phone call in 2010 had been different? The numbers tell part of the story. 41 appearances for Ghana, 6 goals, 2 Africa Cup of Nations tournaments, 2006 and 2008. Key contributions to 2 World Cup qualifying campaigns. But statistics cannot capture the weight of unfulfilled dreams, the pain of talent that never received its ultimate stage. Kingston's career spanned the golden era of Ghanaian football, playing alongside Michael Essien, Sule Muntari and Asamoah Gyan. He was there during Ghana's rise from African hopefuls to genuine World Cup contenders. His vision and creativity were integral to that transformation. Kingston's story forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth about football. Sometimes the most gifted players don't get the platform they deserve. Sometimes passion becomes your weakness. Sometimes the beautiful game breaks your heart, not once, twice. Today, Lai Kingston channels his experience into developing the next generation. As a coach with Ghana's youth teams, he sees his younger self in every promising player. When he speaks to them about discipline, about controlling emotions in crucial moments, his words carry the authority of lived experience. I wasn't always smart in managing my emotions and my body, he admits with the wisdom that comes from reflection. I want to help those young players avoid the mistakes I made. It's a lesson learned too late for his own World Cup dreams, but perhaps perfectly timed to guide someone else's journey. Lai Kingston never played in a World Cup, but his spirit is woven into the fabric of Ghana's football identity. He represents the reminder that talent alone isn't sufficient, that the beautiful game demands not just skill, but wisdom. Not just passion, but control. In the streets of Accra, where his journey began, young players still attempt to replicate those no-look passes, those impossible through balls that made Kingston special. They don't see a player who missed out. They see an artist who created masterpieces on pitches around the world. Every time Ghana takes the field at a major tournament, Kingston's ghost dances in the shadows, a reminder of what was, what might have been, what still could be for the next generation of dreamers. He never got his final stage, but his story still echoes every time a young Ghanaian steps onto a pitch, dreaming bigger than their circumstances. Because in football, as in life, sometimes the stories that matters most are the ones left unfinished. Sometimes the greatest legends are the ones who never got their perfect ending. Like Kingston, the player who had everything except luck. The dreamer who taught us that even broken dreams can inspire a generation. All the things I did for the team and I couldn't make it to the World Cup. It hurts me so much. Like Kingston.
A tackle from Boba Diop on Stephen Appiah. So all the players got there to talk to each other like we all should calm down and all that. So I didn't see Abibai. He came from my blind side and then gave me a blow. So I went straight down, But the referee did not see anything. But the referee said stimulation. I went down too easy. So he came and he gave him a red card and then he gave me a red card with 4 games suspension.